What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
14 FC. Chapter 361 Between. Advertisement. After Xia Xing saw the hut, the expression on his face gradually became relaxed. It seems that the truth of the final road is not far away. Then Xia Xing stepped forward and approached. But when he got closer, he found that things seemed not as simple as he imagined. The inside of the wooden house turned out to be empty at the moment, and without any traces, it didn't look like a place to hide things at all. When Xia Xing saw this, he was already prepared in his heart. The big deal is to return without success, and nothing. But at this moment, Xia Xing suddenly found the shadow of a spirit beast rushing past his eyes. When Xia Xing saw this, his 001 eyes widened. I didn't expect to see this little thing in this group of strange ghosts. However, just when Xia Xing was about to catch up with it, he realized that the guy's speed had completely exceeded his imagination. When seeing this, Xia Xing also looked helpless, and now it seemed that there was no other way. Immediately afterwards, he shouted loudly towards the outside. Pay attention. Another spirit beast has gone out. After hearing Xia Xing's words, the whole scene instantly became chaotic. Advertisement. Everyone's eyes were wandering around, but they didn't find the so-called spirit beast that Zheng Xing said. It turned out to be another one. When Xia Xing walked out of the jungle slowly, looking at their flustered appearance, it seemed that there was nothing to do. Didn't you catch it? After Xia Xing saw that the red hair was still looking down on the ground, he already had the answer in his heart, but he still wanted to ask. After all, with so many people, they couldn't even catch a spirit beast. Are you lying to us? But after hearing what Xia Xing said, Hongfa also looked at him suspiciously. After seeing the red-haired look full of suspicion, Xia Xing no longer knew what to say. With such a reaction, I really don't know if the red hair is stupid or stupid. It's really confusing. If you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it. Why are you still making excuses here? After Xia Xing saw that the red-haired gaze had not left for a long time, he said mockingly. But the red hair seems to have decided that Xia Xing is lying to them. Where are there so many spirit beasts? If they were so easy to find, they should have been extinct long ago. Advertisement. Although it is a virtual creature of Jinbang, there is no way to doubt this form. After seeing the resolute look of the red hair, Xia Xing didn't say anything else. If you don't believe it, forget it. After all, they haven't seen the spirit beast appear. Except the one they have now. Okay, let's hurry up and withdraw. At this moment, Shaman Star 560 said suddenly. It was actually a little strange when I said this sentence. When they acted just now, it happened to be dark. It was almost dawn now, and they called it a day. After Xia Xing packed up, when he walked to Stark's side, Xia Xing also stopped. By the way, you said before that those people in the soul-suppressing world are chasing and killing you. At this time, Xia Xing didn't care about it. According to the rules of Jinbang, it seems that this can be done. As long as all the people in other worlds are killed, the other party will be forced to be eliminated. After all, people are gone. Yes, we came close to falling into their hands. Advertisement. Chapter 362. Advertisement. Xia Xing nodded when he heard this. That's it. After looking at Xia Xing's thoughtful Yangshi, the red hair also felt a tingling scalp. This feeling is really too familiar. How did you provoke them? Xia Xing continued to ask. Of course he knew that those people in the soul-suppressing world must have done it on purpose. The reason why Xia Xing said so was also to test it. In addition, they already don't have many places. If you are not more cautious, it is estimated that it will be much more difficult later. How is it possible? We haven't figured out what's going on yet. Stark said with a bitter face. At this time, the previous events gradually appeared in his mind, including their first meeting, which was so clear. What was not said was that this time it was no longer their own internal affairs. Since this is the case, it seems that it is time for us to go out. Xia Xing said with a wry smile. Advertisement. Looking at his expression, it doesn't look like he is joking. After Stark heard it, he also looked at Xia Xing with a surprised face, and couldn't help asking. Really? When he realized that this was a bit inappropriate, Xia Xing nodded before he had time to correct it. There are still a lot of unresolved accounts between us. There was that guy Shu Cheng in Pirate World before, but now Xia Xing has recorded all of this. Just take this opportunity to give them a little color. Do you know where those guys are now? And this incident seems to have resonated with other people in the pirate world. When he heard this, Stark's heart had already begun to laugh secretly. I didn't expect to come out this time to solve a big problem for them. As long as there is Xia Xing and the others' help, not to mention the soul-suppressing world, even if all other worlds are added together, there is nothing to be afraid of. This is not very clear, but they have been following our tracks, and it is estimated that as long as we stay here for a while, those guys will appear. Stark doesn't know why those guys are targeting the Marvel Universe. Advertisement. If it is too weak, Stark has nothing to say. Since the old man passed away, almost all of their resources have been plundered. All the previous efforts have been in vain. Under such circumstances, it is not bad to be able to save a life. And now, they seem to have no way to make such a guarantee. Those guys in the world of soul suppression are like crazy. Okay, but we don't seem to have that much time to stay here. Quote. When hearing this, Xia Xing thought about it for a while, but finally found that it was not possible. Although the matter of revenge is important, if they do not take action to find clues to the final path, they will most likely fall behind in other worlds of money. Of course, the marble world is an exception. After seeing Xia Xing's tangled appearance, Stark also felt that something was wrong, and it was a life-saving straw that he finally grasped. If you let go at this time, there will be an abyss under your feet, and there is no way to struggle out again. There must be another way. Now Stark can't say anything else, he can only rely on such words to induce them. Maybe some trade-offs will be made. Advertisement. Chapter 363 Acting Skills. Advertisement. After Xia Xing saw the nervous expression on Stark's face, he naturally knew what he meant. But Xia Xing didn't speak, because he wanted to get such news from someone now. Be able to do both. But such things are still too rare, even if Stark looked at him expectantly, it would have no effect. Forget it, you'd better do it yourself. Xia Xing was not heartless. At this juncture, as long as he was slightly behind, it would be difficult to catch up again later. After seeing Stark's helpless expression, Xia Xing shook his head. Okay, let's get out of here quickly, those ghosts will come up again soon. Xia Xing said calmly. Now the world can be said to be full of dangers, but relatively, there are also many opportunities. As long as they find resources in this world, they can get multiplied gifts in their respective worlds. In this way, they can easily feel the victory, but it is just another form. But now for Stark and the others, the existence of danger is far greater than the opportunity, not only the ghosts and the chasing soldiers of the soul-suppressing world, they can't even find some effective methods now. Advertisement. To achieve the purpose of this trip. If I had known ABDH, I would have abstained directly. Stark also said helplessly, if they didn't choose to enter the challenge at that time, maybe it was the best choice for them. When I heard this sentence, I had to say that Xia Xing was also moved with some compassion. Forget it, let's go back to the camp first. On the one hand, it was the ghosts behind them, and on the other hand, Xia Xing also wanted to see their current situation. Stark found a glimmer of hope in Xia Xing's words. It seemed that there was still a chance, and then he nodded with a smile. But when they came to the camp, Stark already sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere, and then he looked at Thor. Because it didn't follow up just now, it must know something. Looking at his eyes, he also seemed a little nervous. Sit down, don't be so rigid. After Xia Xing saw that the eyes of those people in the marble world were all fixed on him, he also felt a little uncomfortable, and then he said immediately. Advertisement. When I saw this, it didn't ease any atmosphere. What the hell is going on now? And Sengoku next to him also felt that something was wrong. Looking at them, his eyes seemed to be full of murderous intent. And the target is also locked on them. However, Xia Xing was not worried about this matter at all. Even if they were given one hand, people in the marble world would not be able to make any big waves. And now that they appear here, those in the marble world probably won't act rashly. They must know what the consequences will be if they do so. When I saw this, the only person who was nervous was probably Stark. The communication with Soul's eyes also made him feel a lot of pressure. Okay, let's talk about what happened just now. Xia Xing didn't care about the surrounding environment and gaze at all, these were not considered problems. But when he heard these words, Stark still hesitated. It seems to be digesting something. Advertisement. Chapter 364 Chasing and Killing. Advertisement. What's wrong? Can't speak yet. Seeing that Stark hadn't answered for a long time, Xia Xing seemed a little impatient, and then said immediately. They are the ones being hunted down by the soul-suppressing world now, and they are still calmed down in such a situation. Those who don't know really think how reliable the camp they chose is. And just when Stark was about to answer with an apologetic face, Thanos suddenly stopped in front of him. What is it? What are you going to betray us? Facing Thanos' questioning, Stark didn't want to answer at first. Looking at the way that guy is now, he is deliberately finding fault, and then no matter what Stark says, he will find a breakthrough. But just when Stark ignored him and walked directly in front of Xia Xing, Thanos urged the others to start talking about it. Seeing this, Xia Xing just sneered. It seems that you already have your own ideas. After finishing speaking, just as he was about to get up, Stark immediately took a step ahead. No, that's not what they mean. We need your help right now. Advertisement. After seeing Stark stopping in front of Xia Xing, the others were also surprised. Help, isn't that what he said just now? Ask for Xia Xing's help. This is indeed a good way. Hearing the target of their discussion gradually begin to change, when Stark saw this, the brilliance on his face was already gone. Looking at them now, I am really ashamed. If there is nothing to say, then let's go. After seeing Stark in front of him, Xia Xing prepared to pass directly. But in the end he was stopped. We really need your help right now. Besides, those guys in Soul Suppression World should be a big threat to you, right? When he said this, Xia Xing just glanced at him with interest. But that doesn't mean anything either. As for those guys in the Soul Suppressing World, it can be left to the end to solve it. Anyway, the previous revenge will definitely be avenged. Advertisement. Do you think those guys are a threat to us? Xia Xing said with a sneer. Stark choked on the words. If you look at it this way, it seems to be true. Although those guys from the soul-suppressing world have been chasing them from behind, showing a fierce look, but in front of Xia Xing, they are nothing at all. After seeing Stark gradually fell silent, those in the marble world behind him gradually understood the situation. It seemed that Stark wanted to ask Xia Xing and the others for help to get them out of their current situation. 0. Recalling what they said just now, I don't know how to describe it anymore, it is really stupid. And what Xia Xing said just now seemed to have put them in a desperate situation. Stark has no time for the people behind him. The most important thing is that he doesn't want to continue to live this kind of fearful life anymore. Those people in the soul-suppressing world seem to be crazy now, completely disrupting their plans. If they don't stop it, they haven't left here yet, and it is estimated that it will be over. It was only at this time that the others realized the seriousness of the problem. After finally meeting Xia Xing, they would definitely not let this opportunity pass by. Advertisement. Chapter 365 Recognizing the Reality. Advertisement. But I don't think you need any help. After Xia Xing saw Stark's gaze, he also pretended to be helpless and said. From the beginning when he appeared here, Xia Xing also understood that these people would have some fears in their hearts, but when they came to their senses, time seemed to be no longer on their side. 2 days. After hearing what Xia Xing said, 123, Tucker also knew that what he just said was nonsense, and he didn't care at all. What 2 days? Looking at Stark in front of him suddenly stretching out his finger, Xia Xing also looked puzzled. He suddenly said such a sentence, which really made him confused. I don't know what's going on in Stark's head right now. And then, after seeing Xia Xing ready to finish listening, Stark continued. In 2 days, people from Soul Suppression World will definitely come here, so you guys have to wait a little longer. It seems that he has also calculated the time well. If it is 2 days, it will not delay anything. Moreover, it can also solve a hidden danger in the back. For Xia Xing and the others, it doesn't matter too much. Advertisement. What if they don't come? What Stark needs to be clear now is that Xia Xing hasn't reached the point of being overwhelmed by anger. No matter what you do, you need to have a clear reason. If they can't wait for those guys from Soul Requiem World after 2 days here, why are they still here? Just to help the people of the Marvel Universe wipe out the threat. This is not Xia Xing's style at all. If they don't show up, I'm willing to listen to you. Looking at Stark's expression now, it seems that he is ready to go all out. After all, the current situation is not much better for them. Because of the temporary interruption of the gold list, they also suffered a blow from the soul-suppressing world in their own world, and this challenge was so seamless that they had no room to fight back. Treating you. Is it fun? After seeing Stark's serious expression, Xia Xing really couldn't bear to say this, but Xia Xing felt that it was necessary for him to recognize the reality. If it's Xu Cheng, maybe Zhengxing can think about it. Advertisement. This. Stark was speechless again. Because he couldn't think of any other reason. But if they continue to sit and wait like this, the ending waiting for them will be the same. Forget it. Don't hesitate here too. If you want us to stay, you can. In the end, what they didn't expect was that Xia Xing let go first. We can agree to any conditions. After seeing such a transformation, Stark couldn't hide his excitement at all. It exploded in an instant. When Thanos and the others heard Stark's words in the back, they naturally still felt a little uncomfortable. Why should they force their ideas into it? But in the end, 5.5 still failed to say this sentence. They themselves are very clear about the current situation, and this is likely to be their last chance to survive. If you can't grasp it, you can directly announce your withdrawal. The only downside is that they wandered here for such a long time. Not only did they gain nothing, but also lost a lot of things. Advertisement. Chapter 366 Conditions. Advertisement. Seeing that Stark agreed and the others had no objections, Xia Xing finally stated his conditions. The time is only 2 days, and during this period you all have to listen to my orders. Xia Xing simply stated these 2 points. Sounds like it should be fine. However, just when Stark was about to agree directly, the red hair suddenly grabbed Xia Xing and walked away. Are you really going to stay here? The redhead also saw that the matter was about to be confirmed, so he came to ask about the situation. After hearing his question, Xia Xing nodded. Yeah, there's no harm anyway. After seeing Xia Xing's current attitude at 01, the red hair also nodded, but it can also be seen from his expression that he hasn't expressed his thoughts yet. If you have anything, just say it. What Xia Xing couldn't get used to the most now was their hesitation to speak. Wouldn't it be fine to just say what they had to say? Holding back here is not only uncomfortable for himself, but also makes him feel a little uncomfortable. I'm still worried about timing. Advertisement. The redhead spoke directly. In fact, he was more worried about wasting time like this. And being in someone else's camp, I still felt somewhat uncomfortable. After all, they can't control their thoughts. Although Stark is now requesting Xia Xing on behalf of the Marvel world, who knows if this is a scam or not. And I don't know what other people's thoughts are. After they are determined, everything will not be able to be changed. So what do you think? When Xia Xing heard this, he asked. But obviously, even the redhead couldn't tell why. After that, Xia Xing also took over. Don't worry, it won't do them any good to lie to us. Xia Xing analyzed and said, if it was really a conspiracy, they probably shouldn't have chosen Xia Xing either. This explanation is true, but Ji Xing already knew it when he saw Stark. They also had no choice to make such a decision. When talking just now, Xia Xing also turned around and looked at Stark from the corner of his eye. Advertisement. There was tension in his expression, but it wasn't because of the current situation. Okay, Leave this matter to me. After Xia Xing patted the red hair, he turned around and walked in front of Stark. If there is no problem with this condition, you should hurry up and prepare now. However, Stark was a little overwhelmed by the words that came up without beginning or end, although he could also see the joy from his face. What are we preparing for? After Stark said this sentence with hesitation, he also slowly set his eyes on Xia Xing. How can this sentence come out of your mouth? After listening to Stark's answer, Xia Xing said with a wry smile. Of course it's a place to sleep, why? Are you going to make us just wait with our eyes open? After Xia Xing finished explaining, Stark came back to his senses, and then apologized for a while. By the way, there is still food and drink, if there is a little less at that time, I will have nothing to say. When hearing this, Stark nodded again and again. Only by meeting all Xia Xing's requirements now can we talk about the future. Advertisement. Chapter 367 Achievement. Advertisement. Don't worry, we will do our best to meet any request. When he said this, Xia Xing shook his head. It's not about doing your best, it's about having to. After returning to the place arranged by Stark and the others, the redhead understood. This is completely regarded as a vacation. Although the conditions are a bit difficult, but there are so many people serving, it is nothing better than anything. Are we really going to take revenge on those guys from Soul Suppression World this time? And when they were sitting around discussing together, Sengoku suddenly asked such a sentence. This sentence really made Xia Xing a little puzzled. What time has it been, and I can still ask this sentence? Of course, what else? Let them pose a threat to us in the future. The last time Xia Xing regretted not seizing the opportunity, the group asked them to do such a thing later. Upon hearing this, Sengoku nodded. But he always feels that things are not as simple as they seem now. I didn't mean that, Sengoku also immediately explained afterward. Advertisement. He knew that everything was under control now, and those people in the soul-suppressing world just wanted to bypass the astrology to achieve their goals. But from the looks of it now, they probably won't let it go. Ever since they made that stupid decision, Shang Kunlun appeared in their world through some unknown method. After Xu Cheng made such a decision, it was destined that they wanted to be enemies of Pirate World. Of course it's not just this one thing. I understand, but now that we've come to this point, it's better to let go of the previous regrets. Xia Xing said with a smile. It seemed that he didn't intend to leave any trouble this time. Looking at Xia Xing in front of him, Sengoku felt strange for some reason. I don't even know what he's thinking right now. But just like what he said, since there is no other way, you can only go as you wish. And they don't seem to have much to worry about now. Thinking of this, Sengoku nodded. But soon, they realized that something seemed to be wrong. They didn't wait until the next day, and those guys from Soul Rescue World seemed to be chasing him very closely. The first to spot those guys was Whitebeard. It was also a coincidence that he vaguely noticed the existence of other people nearby. Advertisement. However, he didn't pay much attention to it, but told Zongxing about it. Then it looks like we've been exposed. When Xia Xing heard this, he said helplessly. It's just that those guys haven't left yet, and it seems that they don't take them seriously at all. Maybe these guys have always been there, it's just. Having said that, Whitebeard also slowly turned around and set his sights on those people in the Marvel world. Needless to say, Xia Xing also understood the meaning of Bai Zhao Nuohao beard in the next sentence. But since people have come to our door, we naturally cannot slack off. Xia Xing smiled and said to play. Xia Xing also regretted leaving his safety in the hands of these people. There is no credibility at all. Do we need to take the initiative? Whitebeard also asked directly afterwards. For him, how to handle these things is as simple as possible. But Xia Xing shook his head. Advertisement. Chapter 368 Surveillance. Advertisement. Don't worry yet, let's see what's going on with them. At least they now know that there are already several pairs of eyes staring at them. What needs to be done is also very simple, that is, try to act without being discovered by them. As for what kind of action, it depends on how much preparation they have made this time. After that, Xia Xing didn't tell the people in the Marvel world what they found. This is also done to be on the safe side, and try not to be discovered by those guys in the soul-suppressing world. It was precisely because of the appearance of those guys in the soul-suppressing world that at least Xia Xing and the others understood that Stark hadn't lied about this matter. 253 can be regarded as an end to a worry. On the other side, Stark and the others didn't notice this at all. I really don't know how they survived until now, and escaped from the pursuit of Soul Suppression World. Seeing Stark and the others relaxed, Xia Xingping suddenly realized something. Then immediately let Whitebeard and the others gather. After seeing Xia Xing's expression, the red hair and the others were also puzzled. Advertisement. I don't know what happened, it's just some spies from the soul-suppressing world, and it didn't look like this just now. It's time to act, Xia Xing said suddenly. This sentence made them a little confused. It was also in the same place just now. Xia Xing told them not to act rashly, the change of mind was a bit too fast, in the blink of an eye. Before they figured it out, Xia Xing also slowly locked his eyes on Stark and the others. You have misunderstood me. Whitebeard also noticed Xia Xing's eyes for the first time, as if it had something to do with Marvel World and the others. What? Is there something wrong? Whitebeard asked. And what Xia Xing said afterwards completely threw their heads into chaos. Of course something is wrong, we have been lied to ABCC from the beginning. Xia Xing said with a smile. Those guys are playing me around. After that, Xia Xing also explained clearly to them. Advertisement. Their acting skills are really good enough. Although the red hair and the others had said that something was wrong before, they did not expect it to be in this way. Are you sure? If you make a mistake later, it will be irreversible. Whitebeard also seemed to be ready to fight, but he still asked before that. I don't know if these guys in the marble world can handle it. Xia Xing nodded, but looking at him, it seemed that this time he had no intention of taking advantage of them like this. After explaining the situation to them here, Xia Xing also walked slowly to Stark's side. Is there any medicine ordered? After seeing Xia Xing appearing, Stark immediately walked over and asked. No problem could be seen from his expression. He said they were useless before, but now Xia Xing was going to take back his words. It's something, but it's just small things. After Xia Xing heard it, he was still a little dazed at first. It's not as if Stark's identity has yet to come to an end. If you have anything to say, just say it. Advertisement. Chapter 369, Trap. Advertisement. After seeing Stark being so polite, Xia Xing seemed to have no reason to refuse, and then pulled him. Let's go to the side and talk. Stark didn't have any doubts, and after seeing it, he followed Xia Xing directly. Afterwards, he also slowly realized that something was wrong with the atmosphere. After taking him to a place where no one noticed, Xia Xing suddenly stopped, turned around and locked his eyes on him. When Stark saw this, his face was full of doubts, not knowing what happened. Yes, what's the matter? As soon as this sentence was finished, Xia Xing's attitude changed. When did this happen? Xia Xing asked directly. This sentence directly blinded Stark, not knowing what was going on. Don't rush to ask, and don't explain, think it through before you speak. After seeing that he was about to speak, Xia Xing blocked him directly. Now you can already feel the pressure in Stark's heart at this moment. It's just torturing him, but when he heard Xia Xing's last words, he did. Advertisement. Beads of sweat were about to drip down his forehead. After seeing him so nervous, Xia Xing urged him again, completely throwing Stark into disarray. If you don't know, I'll remind you again, when did you guys collude with those guys from Soul Suppression World? Upon hearing this, Stark finally decided to quibble. I don't know what you mean, did something happen? Pretty. After Xia Xing heard his words, he became even more excited. As if waiting for this sentence from Stark. Since this is the case, are you ready to avoid any misunderstanding? After finishing speaking, Xia Xing exuded bursts of murderous aura. Seeing this, Stark instantly tensed up. No need to speak, he could already see what he wanted to tell from Xia Xing's eyes. Ready? What are you going to do? When he said these words, Stark also felt a little familiar, but the current situation seems to have made him a little bit unable to laugh. 0 for flowers. 0. Advertisement. 1-on-1, to be fair. It's fine to say heads up, Xia Xing also emphasized for the sake of fairness. It's all about driving Stark to his death. In the end, there was no other way, Stark had to confess. Because from Xia Xing's mouth, he realized that no matter how many sophistry he made now, it would be useless. It's all because of them. Oh. This explanation is too old-fashioned, and it didn't even bring any fluctuations to Xia Xing, just looking at him like this. When Stark saw Xia Xing's eyes, he was shocked instantly. What I said is real. I didn't say anything. Seeing that he started to struggle so quickly, Xia Xing shrugged and said. I'm just a little curious, do you have any handles in their hands? But just when Xia Xing had just finished saying this sentence, he suddenly remembered it. It seems that it cannot be said to be a handle. What excuse do we have now? As long as one of you is unhappy, our whole world will tremble. When these words came out of Stark's mouth, he was inexplicably happy. Advertisement. Chapter 370 Persecution. Advertisement. It seems that it is exactly what Xia Xing imagined, the first half of what Stark said before is true. It's just that after the people from the soul-suppressing world went to the marble world, they used force to force them. Xia Xing didn't want to know the specific situation either. The most important thing now was what they were plotting. Where is Xu Cheng now? After that, Xia Xing didn't talk nonsense and asked directly. When he heard the words, 247, Stark was still a little hesitant at first, not knowing how to answer. But after that, Xia Xing gave a simple look. Just like with Thanos before, Stark couldn't hold out for 2 seconds. I really don't know that guy usually doesn't show up at all. Looking at Stark's appearance, it shouldn't seem like he's lying, and there's no need for him to try on the verge of death at this time. Obviously, this time, they did not intend to let him go easily. Then how do you usually communicate? The reason why he pulled Stark out alone was that Xia Xing was worried that other people would see him, and then he would contact the people in the soul-suppressing world. This is because they came to contact us on their own initiative. The method is not fixed, but most of them send people directly. Xia Xing nodded thoughtfully when he heard this. Now he can't guarantee whether he can fully believe this sentence. Advertisement. This time, I'll just trust you for the time being. I don't need to remind you what I should say when I go back later, right? When he said this, Stark glanced at Xia Xing, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. Xia Xing was going to let him go. After seeing his surprised eyes, Xia Xing didn't know what to say. What? Do you want me to teach you a good lesson? At first Xia Xing thought he meant that, but then he said it directly. No need. After going back, Stark couldn't calm down for a long time. I don't know if I should tell what happened just now. Although he didn't lead the matter this time, he was the one who came forward to connect with Xia Xing after all. All the acting skills also broke out on him. No matter what angle he stands at now, it seems that it is not very good for him. What happened to you? But at this moment, a sound suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Turning around, he didn't know when Saul appeared behind him. Hearing his greeting was more like a shock. Advertisement. Stark shook his head immediately. Casually perfunctory a bit. No, there seems to be something wrong with your expression. But Saul was relentless beside him. What's the problem? Are you over your head? After hearing Thor's words, Stark was startled. Where are they? Stark tried to see if he could change the subject directly. But this time, Saul didn't think so much. Shook his head. I don't know, but I have a hunch. Said, Saul also sat next to Stark's 3.8. The voice of speaking also suddenly became smaller. What's the meaning? When Stark heard this, his mood became more and more nervous, and he really didn't know what kind of surprise what Thor said next would bring him. We pretend like this now, we don't know those guys. When he said this, Stark also interrupted him immediately. Advertisement. Chapter 371 Leave. Advertisement. Are you crazy? When Stark said this, he pretended to be nervous and looked around. After seeing no one around, Stark looked at Thor again. Say this kind of thing, are you courting death? From Stark's face, there was no sign of acting. Saul naturally had no doubts. Then immediately shut up. I see. After finishing speaking, Saul walked away with a helpless expression. One saw his back gradually disappear, and Stark breathed a sigh of relief. It was finally fooled. But then, for him, it was a complete torment. Some even wanted to leave. He couldn't afford to pick out any of the people on the three sides at random. But the most terrible thing now is that there is one thing that he has been unable to figure out. Xia Xing put him back so simply. Advertisement. It was as if he was sure that he would not tell what happened this time. He had obviously lied to him once. Every time he thought of this, Stark would have a headache, and he didn't know what Xia Xing was thinking. Completely controlled by him in the palm of his hand. And after that, when Xia Xing returned, the others were already ready. It was also their plan to put Stark back this time. No matter how Stark reacted afterwards, it made no difference to them. According to the plan, by now Whitebeard they should have been solving the outside problem. And Xia Xing and the others had to rush there immediately, because they didn't know how many people those guys in the soul-suppressing world had sent here to watch them. If it's tricky, they can't avoid unnecessary trouble by arriving in time. However, before they set off, there was a sudden loud noise outside. When he heard this, the red hair also slowly stopped the movements in his hands, and said helplessly to Xia Xing. I just said Whitebeard shouldn't have gone. It is estimated that everyone in the entire challenge can hear the commotion. But Xia Xing didn't say anything. Now that they have already started over there, they naturally have to speed up. Advertisement. It's better to talk less nonsense, and you will be indispensable later. Finally, Xia Xing also reminded, don't forget about the spirit beast. It's okay not to mention this, after the red hair saw the spirit beast on the ground, now he only has contempt for it. What do you want to do with this thing? It's useless at 10 o'clock. The red-haired stared at the spirit beast and said, and the little thing seemed to be able to understand their words. After seeing the red hair looking at him with disdain, the spirit beast also showed a ferocious face. I don't know who to scare. 610. What? Are you still not convinced? Why don't you practice? After seeing the ferocious expression of the spirit beast, the red-haired Japanese raised his fist solemnly. Xia Xing was already convinced when he saw this. Have you played enough? Then Xia Xing also asked. It was obvious that the meaning of ridicule was heard. After hearing this, the red hair turned around slowly, and fixed his gaze on Xia Xing. But in the end, he still didn't seem to hold back, and waved his hand directly. Forget it, it's not worth it. If you have any use for this thing, you can take it with you. After leaving these words, the red hair turned around immediately, as if preparing to leave. Advertisement. Chapter 372. Advertisement. But just when the red hair was about to leave, he suddenly turned around. Are you sure you don't want to chase after me? Or is it a threat? After Xia Xing saw his appearance, he shook his head calmly. There was no way, if he hadn't been in a hurry to get to Whitebeard, he wouldn't have compromised. And just when he turned around to take the spirit beast with him, he lowered his head and found that the little thing had disappeared. It was clearly still here the last second. After the red hair saw it, the expression on his face instantly became tense, and then he immediately turned around and looked around. In the end, Xia Xing said something to him. Just ran out. This sentence came out of Xia Xing's mouth lightly. Hearing this, the redhead didn't care about complaining, and immediately rushed out. It was just a joke just now. Before they entered, Jinbang left these two slightly useful information, one is a spirit beast, and the other is a strange ghost. They managed to catch a spirit beast by luck, so naturally they had to take good care of it. However, after Hongfa went out, he didn't start looking for it. Advertisement. Instead, he froze in place. When seeing this, Xia Xing also felt that something was wrong, then he put down the things he was packing up, and slowly approached the door. Before he could go out completely, he had already seen a crowd of people outside. What happened? Xia Xing didn't go out immediately, but stood directly beside the red hair and asked. After giving him a little time to react, the redhead spoke slowly. It seems that this time it is not so easy to let us go. Hearing this sentence, Xia Xing almost understood it. It seems that people in the marble world have heard something. Seeing that the red hair was still standing like this, Xia Xing pushed him aside. What? Did I let you come over? After Xia Xing saw the marble world camp headed by Thanos and Captain Marvel, he snorted coldly. Full of disdain. But the two of them didn't seem to care about these details at all. There's something we want to talk to you about, should it be okay? Advertisement. This is completely blatant threat. After hearing these words, Xia Xing shook his head. I'm afraid it won't work today, why don't you go to another place? But those guys were already fully armed and walked towards Xia Xing. The vicinity of their room was surrounded by those guys from the marble world. However, in Xia Xing's eyes, what he saw was just a few blank sheets of paper, without any threat at all. Backquote. I really don't understand who gave you the courage. Quote. After seeing them approaching gradually, Xia Xing also gave a wry smile. As soon as the voice fell, Thanos felt the ground start to tremble. At first, I thought it was the noise made by Bai Wang Wang's beard just now. But turning around and looking in Xia Xing's direction, golden haki had condensed on his body. But what surprised Xia Xing was that he didn't see the slightest fear in the eyes of Thanos and the others. It's really against it. After that, Thanos also took a direct step towards Xia Xing and the others. Xia Xing was stunned when he saw this. This time I really don't want my life. Advertisement. Chapter 373. Advertisement. However, Xia Xing did not relax because of this situation. After seeing Thanos rushing towards him, Xia Xing was already ready. Although I don't know what's wrong with the brains of these guys. In the next second, Thanos didn't even touch a single hair of Xia Xing, and was directly beaten back to his original shape. Xia Xing just waved his arm slightly, and an invisible spiritual power quickly condensed in the surrounding air. Thanos didn't find anything at all, and in the end it was a reminder from behind. But when he noticed, the time was 270 too late. The aura as sharp as a blade directly slashed across his body, leaving an obvious wound. But to Thanos, this is nothing at all. You guys are really stubborn. Xia Xing sneered when he saw Thanos' current appearance. It seems that this guy has not figured out the situation at all. But others have calmed down a lot now. After all, there is no cover anymore. Advertisement. Why are there so few? When there was chaos outside, the red ABAA hair came out without knowing when. He was still muttering, but when he came out, seeing the scene in front of him, he froze in place. Those guys from the marble world are all gathered here. It looked like he was about to kill someone. You guys are crazy. After the red hair saw it, he smiled wryly at Mie and the others. To think of going against Xia Xing was just looking for excitement. But who knew that as soon as the red hair said this, Xia Xing was attacked by the actions over there. Captain Surprise also rushed towards Xia Xing recklessly, only to see that the flash of light on her body instantly turned into a long strip. He directly wanted to penetrate Xia Xing's chest, but how could Xia Xing give her this chance? At the moment Captain Marvel rushed over, Xia Xing suddenly disappeared. When seeing this scene, Captain Marvel stopped directly, but he didn't feel any breath. Xia Xing disappeared out of her sight just like that. When seeing this scene, Captain Marvel was full of surprise. Advertisement. I don't know what happened at all, but these are all in their expectation. After all, they had seen Xia Xing's strength before. But the most important thing now is to procrastinate. Redhead, don't watch the excitement from the sidelines, Whitebeard is still waiting. The red hair was watching the play from the sidelines, and Xia Xing's sudden disappearance made him a little surprised, and then he began to scan and search. But there is no gain. Just when he was about to dispel his worries, Xia Xing's voice suddenly came from behind him. Now Whitebeard must be fighting with the people from Soul Suppressing World, and I don't know what happened. But looking at these guys in the Marvel world, it seems that they should have colluded in advance. Originally, Xia Xing wanted to end the battle as soon as possible, but he didn't know what was going on, and his condition today was not very good. If you want to get rid of all these guys in front of you, it may take some time. Now I can only let the red hair go to support first, otherwise, it will be troublesome later. On the other side, Whitebeard had no way of meeting his old foe this time around. Looking at Cao Yanbing in front of him, Whitebeard also sneered. Isn't this the brat who defeated the red hair last time? Advertisement. Chapter 374 Weakness. Advertisement. When he heard this sentence, Cao Yanbing didn't know why he felt a little uncomfortable, so he didn't respond directly. Old man, your body is so sick, do you still want to persist here? Cao Yanbing taunted unceremoniously, but Whitebeard would not be offended by his one or two words. To deal with a brat like you, I don't need my face and hands at all. As soon as these words were spoken, Cao Yanbing's weakness was exposed instantly. It's just too conceited. The moment he heard this sentence, the expression on his face was beyond words. It is estimated that my heart is full of anger now. In this case, for Baihu, Z, it is exactly what he wants. Before waiting for his response, Cao Yanbing started fighting anxiously. Seeing his serious look, Whitebeard thought of Ace Kid. Like him, they are all in this desperate state. Only this time, Whitebeard won't be soft on the guy. Advertisement. Needless to say, these guys from Soul Suppression World are full of threats, and they must be eradicated as soon as possible to avoid any fatal harm to them in the future. When thinking of this, Whitebeard also decided to be ruthless and hit with all his strength. Think about it later. If you don't do this, maybe it won't be as smooth as he imagined. After seeing Cao Yan's soldiers were as fierce as flames, Whitebeard was not to be outdone. This was the moment Xia Xing and the others felt in the camp just now. The entire ground seemed to be torn apart, and Cao Yanbing felt fear only when he was really facing this moment. No wonder Wangfu Longdu was defeated. Although there was an element of luck in the end, the man in front of him was not so simple to define. After feeling such a shock, Cao Yanbing was not intimidated by Whitebeard's aura. Just slightly turning his body sideways, feeling such coercion, Cao Yanbing naturally couldn't show his full strength. And if you do this now, you will undoubtedly dig a hole for yourself. But he couldn't control Whitebeard's mind. Faced with Cao Yanbing's dodge, Whitebeard did not intend to let go of any chance at all. Advertisement. 0. Ask for flowers. Although it shouldn't be said, last time it was because Xia Xing didn't seize the opportunity and let them take advantage of it. Only then did the next thing happen, otherwise, their fate would have already been fixed at that moment. Don't be careless. But at this moment, Cao Yanbing seemed to have discovered Whitebeard's flaw, and then he directly appeared behind him holding Shidian Yama tightly. Oh. Naturally, Whitebeard had noticed it, but he hadn't paid attention to it yet. He didn't expect that guy to start to make an inch of it. Whitebeard reacted quickly after hearing the harsh voice behind him. Facing the flames, Whitebeard punched down, and a shattered space instantly formed in midair. The flames released by Yama of the 10 palaces scattered on the surrounding ground as if they were torn apart. It is estimated that Cao Yanbing encountered such a situation for the first time, so he hurriedly took it back. Such power made him feel a little worried. After all, he still doesn't know when their reinforcements will arrive, and his task is to delay Ba before that. Advertisement. Chapter 375 Best Condition. Advertisement. Those people in the marble world are completely unreliable. Now he can only do his best, but he seems to have overlooked one thing now. Although they don't know when their reinforcements will arrive, Pirate World has already gathered quickly. Even if those guys from the marble world could hold Xia Xing back temporarily, as long as the others came over, he would have no chance of winning. 047. In such a situation, I don't know what he will do. And Whitebeard seems to be relaxed because of such preparations. Do you really think that no one can sanction? Whitebeard saw that Cao Yanbing immediately withdrew his conceited expression, and said with a smile. It seems that the kid has already felt worried. But that's just the beginning. Now Whitebeard has already started to prepare for the next offensive. He must be dealt with as soon as possible. After the last lesson, Whitebeard is also clear that if these guys are given time, it will bring huge losses. It looks like I don't need any help here. Advertisement. But at this moment, Cao Yanbing suddenly heard a voice behind him, which shocked him instantly. Turning around and looking over, he didn't know when the red hair appeared behind him. If he took the opportunity to attack, it is estimated that Cao Yanbing would not find out. When thinking of this, Cao Yanbing was also afraid for a while, and then immediately distanced himself from them. After seeing the appearance of red hair, Whitebeard did not show any surprise. What do you think? Whitebeard's sarcastic remark instantly extinguished the red-haired enthusiasm. Okay, I'm being self-indulgent, you guys continue. After speaking, the redhead turned and prepared to leave. Before he left, Whitebeard continued what he had just said. Hurry up and finish, I don't want to waste time here. It means to let the redhead seize the time to solve this problem together. The moment Cao Yanbing heard this sentence, the expression on Cao Yanbing's face could no longer be described as panic. Advertisement. It has completely lost control, and now Cao Yanbing seems to know how outrageous the mission Xu Cheng gave him is. Originally, I thought it was just observing secretly, and those people in the marble world were also with them. Now it seems that only the number of people has an advantage. And the only advantage does not seem to be reflected. Facing such two people, Cao Yanbing has absolutely no chance of winning. But the matter didn't seem to be over yet. Cao Yanbing didn't adjust his mentality, and several familiar faces appeared in his sight again. Except for Xia Xing, other people from Pirate World have already arrived here. Now Cao Yanbing didn't know if he should be glad that Xia Xing was not here. But looking at the lineup in front of him, Cao Yanbing felt like he wanted to slip away from 1.8 for the first time. This time, don't say that we are bullying the few with more. After all, last time our trump card singled out dozens of you. 17. Sengoku sneered when he saw the lonely Cao Yanbing in front of him. I just wanted to frighten him. Looking at Cao Yanbing's still speechless state, just like what Whitebeard said, this is their best opportunity, so don't waste it. Advertisement. Chapter 376. Sengoku of Buddha. Advertisement. But who would have thought that just after finishing these words, it was as if he had given Cao Yanbing blood, making him excited. Don't worry, it's not enough to bully the few with the more. After Whitebeard and the others heard this, they turned their attention to Cao Yanbing to see how confident he was. That is, the moment they turned around, Whitebeard and Sengoku felt the Reiatsu emanating from Cao Yanbing at the same time. Afterwards, huge figures appeared in sight. They are the 7 guardian spirits of Cao Yanbing, which they have seen before. Although it didn't play much role in front of Xia Xing, the red hair suffered a lot from him. Is that all? Sengoku saw the guardian spirits one behind him, and said coldly, his tone full of disdain. But Cao Yanbing didn't care about this at all, this might be his last battle. In this case, it might as well enjoy it to the fullest. Get rid of all distracting thoughts. At the moment, Whitebeard and his thoughts are surprisingly in line. Advertisement. Shu Chu, Dian Wei, follow me. Following Cao Yanbing's angry shout, Shu Chu held a hammer in his hand, Dian Wei held a pair of halberds, and charged directly towards Whitebeard's position. An invisible gust of wind roared, accompanied by shouts, as if it wanted to break through Whitebeard's defense line directly. When seeing this, Pirate World naturally cannot show weakness. Sengoku also became serious in an instant. After Cao Yanbing their route, a big Buddha shining with golden light stopped in front of them. Shu Chu originally wanted to smash it with a hammer, but before he could do it, a red-haired voice came from behind him. After a while of ping-pong, the red hair was already entangled with Shu Zu with a long knife in his hand. I have to say that this time, with more helpers, it was indeed a lot easier. Just facing Shu Chu's words, I didn't feel any pressure at all. Sengoku's threat was also approaching them. Seeing such a huge body, Cao Yanbing immediately asked Dianwei to block it. But just relying on the double halberds in his hands, it didn't show any effect at all. Sengoku slapped directly through his entire body out. Advertisement. When they saw this, the other guardian spirits naturally couldn't sit still, and joined in one after another. The formation just now was also disrupted in an instant, but now there is no need to care so much. It is true to be able to survive. At this moment, Shahodun also summoned the Red Ogre Legion, trying to tear a hole between them. I saw a large number of cyan flames emerging from the ground, and they continued to condense. After a while, beams of light emerged, and the body of the evil ghost appeared in their sight. Following Shahodun's order, all the evil spirits spread towards Sengoku. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but remind them of Shang Kunlun. Although it's not that exaggerated, the evil spirits summoned by Shahodun seemed to have their own thoughts. Charged towards Sengoku from all directions. Seeing the evil spirits surging up from the ground, Sengoku was ready to face them directly. The state of the Buddha can't last long, so it's better to get rid of them directly. Of course, speed is everything. I saw countless hands stretched out behind Sengoku's transformed Buddha, emitting golden light, and at the same time allowing them to see a different Haki. Advertisement. Chapter 377 Start the War. Advertisement. The evil spirits who were the first to surround Sengoku were instantly reduced to ashes before they touched Sengoku. However, the ones behind still rushed forward, surrounding Sengoku's body layer by layer, already covering his sight. When seeing this scene, Sengoku also sensed the danger and wanted to struggle but found that those evil spirits seemed to be absorbing the Haki from him. For a while, he couldn't exert his strength. Sengoku also instantly felt a sense of powerlessness, while Whitebeard next to him saw something was wrong. Although there is only one target of those evil spirits now, Sengoku's state is really unbelievable to him. Then he rushed forward with a long knife in his hand, beheading the evil spirits in front of him all the way. After Shahodun heard the fight coming from here, the expression on his face became tense. He also knew how terrifying their opponent was this time. When Whitebeard's figure gradually approached, Shahodun was ready to do it himself. His goal is the Buddha. At this moment, Cao Yanbing suddenly reminded. Advertisement. After Shahodun heard the sound, he rushed straight towards the Buddha. Watching Whitebeard, as if ready to help Sengoku out. Now that he had figured this out, Shahodun naturally couldn't let Whitebeard succeed, and then directly took the lead in front of Whitebeard. Now Sengoku's body has been temporarily paralyzed, even if his back is turned to him, it doesn't matter. But when Shahodun saw Whitebeard in front of him, the tremor in his heart did not weaken at all. They were at a disadvantage from the beginning to the end, without any advantage at all. Although I don't know what kind of move this is, I still want to advise you, get the hell out of here as soon as possible. After these words were spoken, an invisible pressure unfolded instantly. As a spirit body, Shahodun couldn't help trembling when he heard this voice. Afterwards, Whitebeard also directly raised the long knife in his hand. The moment he fell forward, Shahodun dodged to the other side ahead of time. Cracks began to spread from under his feet, and Whitebeard was standing where he was now. Advertisement. Looking at his appearance, he was as motionless as a mountain. As if he only needs to stand here to solve everything. And now, Shahodun didn't have the slightest doubt. It's no wonder that Wangfu Longdu was defeated by his men before. The element of luck is only a minority, but in the previous battles, Wangfu Longdu died without any advantage. Facing such an opponent now, I was more or less worried. It's just that Cao Yanbing is already starting this battle with despair, no matter what the result is, they can accept it. What's going on with Boss Shu, why don't you care about us? Sha Hoyuan also started to complain at this time, and the current situation of the king is very clear. If there is no support this time, they can only last for half an hour at most. If this time is exceeded, even if the outcome is undecided, the aura on Cao Yanbing's body will not be able to persist in summoning them when the time comes. Now Sha Hoyuan could already feel that Cao Yanbing had sent most of his wealth Reiatsu to them for this battle. Only in this way can we perform at our best. Advertisement. Chapter 378 Concentration. Advertisement. It's just that for Cao Yanbing, the physical damage was too great. Don't care about that side, as long as we can show our strength. Cao Yanbing's indifferent answer completely put them into a dead end. At least they knew in their hearts that if things went on like this, there would only be one consequence. And now Cao Yanbing has accepted it frankly, after all, he is their host, Sha Hoyuan and the others just feel sorry. As soon as they finished saying this sentence, Whitebeard and the others launched a complete offensive. The goal was unanimously placed on Cao Yanbing, and their thinking was very clear. No matter how many people stood in front of him, as long as Xia Xing was eliminated, everything else would be nothingness. It's just that in battle, this kind of thinking is still a bit unrealistic. After all, these 247 guardian spirits are really in front of their eyes, and even these guys can summon some tricky things. Young master, stand back and fight. At this moment, the 7 guardian spirits surrounded the city and surrounded Cao Yan's soldiers. When seeing this scene, Cao Yanbing was stunned. Shu Chu, what are you doing? Advertisement. Looking at Cao Yanbing, it seemed that there was some resistance, but they ignored it. No matter what, Cao Yanbing is the last trump card in their small group. Even if you risk your life, you must keep him. You all get out of the way. No matter how Cao Yanbing yelled, Shu Chu and the others stood straight around Xia Xing as if they didn't hear it. When seeing this scene, Whitebeard also sneered. It's really touching, but this can't save you. Whitebeard's words undoubtedly pierced Cao Yanbing's heart. From the beginning to the end, he never thought of hiding behind the guardian spirit. He is Cao Yanbing. After seeing the increasingly ferocious expression on his face, Whitebeard also got everyone else ready. Sengoku, you're fine, if you really can't hold on, you can just watch from the side first. Whitebeard said with a smile. Sengoku just waved his hand. Don't come here, you'd better worry about your old bones, and be careful not to fall apart when a bee fights. Advertisement. Seeing them getting lively here, the red hair felt helpless for a while. It seems that now is not the time to relax, and if I remember correctly, what Whitebeard said just now must not be careless. Looking at him now, he should be completely forgotten. This time they may have to live for a while. But at this moment, a sound suddenly came from the sky. After Whitebeard and the others heard it, they immediately put down what they were doing. At first, I thought it was the reinforcements from Soul Suppression World, but after listening carefully, the voice seemed a little familiar. When hearing this, other people's eyes are also looking in the same direction. Xia Xing's figure appeared in their sight. After seeing Xia Xing, Cao Yanbing couldn't think of any way out for him now. His appearance here proves that the battle with the marble world is over. Looking at the current time, Cao Yanbing was really shocked. This gap in strength can no longer be counted by time. Xia Xing, what did you mean by that sentence just now? At this moment, Whitebeard and the others focused on what Xia Xing said just now. Advertisement. Chapter 379 Big Misunderstanding. Advertisement. It seems to say something like keeping Cao Yanbing alive. After that, Xia Xing also slowly walked in front of them, and said with a smile. That's right, that's all for today, I still have something to say to him. After finishing speaking, Xia Xing's eyes fell on Cao Yanbing. It brought him a burst of surprise. What? Yes, do you want to continue fighting? After that, Xia Xing also slowly approached him, in the past. After seeing the fierce eyes of those guardian spirits, Xia Xing said with a wry smile. And now Cao Yanbing also knew that his life was completely in the hands of the man in front of him. According to common sense, you should do what he said. However, Cao Yanbing was still a little worried. If you have anything to say, just say it here. Looking at Cao Yanbing's resolute expression, Xia Xing felt a little uncomfortable. But there are some things, let's say it directly here. Where is Xu Cheng now? Xia Xing came up and asked a question, but regarding this question, Xia Xing didn't plan to get an answer from him, because he knew that it was definitely unrealistic. Advertisement. Sure enough, after Xia Xing asked this question, Cao Yanbing didn't want to pay attention at all at first. Then he sneered. Is this what you want to say? It seems that we should stop here. After speaking, the guardian spirit is ready to fight. Looking at their posture, Zhengxing shook his head. It's just you two, let's forget it. Facing Xia Xing's ridicule, they couldn't find anything to refute. These 2 times, they really couldn't reach the existence of the ceiling in front of them. Let's keep talking, Xia Xing said with a smile. Because he has too many things to figure out now, including those guys in the marble world just now. Xia Xing didn't drive them all to death, but let them go after a little deterrence. After all, it is still in the challenge, and no one knows what will happen in the future. Good chat, Cao Yanbing said with a sneer. There seems to be nothing to say between them now. Advertisement. Regarding Boss Shu's matter, he naturally wouldn't say a word. 0 for flowers. But just after he finished his sentence, the redhead felt that he had to give them a little color, otherwise he couldn't stand the tone of his speech all the time. Afterwards, Whitebeard and the others slowly surrounded him. After seeing this posture, Cao Yanbing's momentum was instantly suppressed. But these are indifferent things to Xia Xing. Because he stood here, it was enough to explain everything. Don't get me wrong, I just want to talk to your boss. At this moment, Xia Xing walked up to Cao Yanbing and said. When hearing this sentence, the expressions of all the people present instantly became surprised. And Xu Cheng. Moreover, this idea seemed to be Xia Xing's temporary idea, and he had never discussed it with them beforehand. Talk. Naturally, Cao Yanbing couldn't make the decision in such a matter, and more importantly, they were still in a state of hostility, so it was very likely that this was a trap. When thinking of this, Cao Yanbing's expression gradually froze, and he became nervous. Worrying that one wrong step will lead to a catastrophe. Advertisement. Chapter 380 Precipitation of Time. Advertisement. What? If it doesn't work, forget it, you guys continue. After Xia Xing saw the tangled expression on Cao Yanbing's face, he also noticed that if he continued to show him good looks like this, maybe this guy would make progress. He must be made aware of his current situation. If you say no, it's easy. The battle continued, and they knew very well what the outcome would be. 070. Sure enough, after hearing Xia Xing's threat, they were completely nervous now. Just don't know what to do. It's not up to me to decide. Finally, after thinking about it, Cao Yanbing could only give one such answer. After Xia Xing heard it, he nodded. That's simple, just let them take a message back, no matter what he has to do now, come to me as soon as possible. Seeing that Xia Xing's attitude gradually became tougher, Cao Yanbing had to think carefully about every word he said next. Otherwise, he doesn't know what the consequences will be. Then there was a tangled expression. Advertisement. There is nothing wrong with Xia Xing saying this to him. If he was asked to repeat it, he might not be able to express the meaning. And Boss Shu may not be able to pay attention to it, after all, it is a special period now. Boss Shu will definitely be worried that this is a trap, and his position will appear very awkward at that time. This. Cao Yanbing whispered these two words completely involuntarily, but Xia Xing still heard them. What? Is it difficult? Xia Xing's murderous eyes stared at him closely. When he saw this, Cao Yanbing didn't know how to answer. And the forms of those guardian spirits have gradually begun to disappear. It seemed that Cao Yanbing no longer had the will to fight. This matter is not discussed, and you don't need to bring a word. When he said this, Cao Yanbing suddenly looked surprised. After talking for a long time, he still didn't understand what Xia Xing meant. That, you are now our hostage. Cao Yanbing is in a daze right now, completely unaware of what's going on. Advertisement. It should be enough to let Marvel send 2 people later, right? Xia Xing also deliberately glanced at Cao Yanbing, and asked. Marvel. Just now Cao Yanbing thought that those guys in the Marvel world had already been dealt with by Xia Xing. It seems that it is not as simple as he imagined. That's right, isn't your relationship very good, just this time I asked them to do it for me. After finishing speaking, Xia Xing gave Hongfa a look. Let's bring Stark and the others here later, this time it's worth making up for it. Seeing the back of the red hair gradually disappear, Cao Yanbing gradually realized that he was in a dilemma. No matter what you do, you won't get good results. When thinking of this, Cao Yanbing was speechless. Don't worry 0.0, as long as Xu Cheng comes over, you can talk about anything. Seeing Cao Yanbing's sad face, Xia Xing said with a smile. It's not to comfort him, but looking at this face now, it's too easy to play. Okay. You just stay here honestly, just tell Stark the contact information with them later, and leave the rest to time. Advertisement. Chapter 381 Genius, the difference between cloud and mud. Advertisement. Then Xia Xing turned his head away, stared into the distance lightly, and ignored Cao Yanbing no longer. Looking at Xia Xing's profile, Cao Yanbing hesitated to speak, and after a long time, he sighed heavily and closed his mouth. Now, the self-confidence on his face has disappeared, and his whole body has shrunk completely. His face was full of decadence and uneasiness. In the soul-suppressing world, Cao Yanbing, who has 7 guardian spirits, can almost be said to be the absolute protagonist. From killing Lori Jai, to Sun Zontian, to General Fushi and other generals, until defeating the legendary boss and king. Cao Yanbing came forward step by step, recovering from failure after failure, facing increasingly stronger enemies. One himself became stronger and defeated them. Seeing countless powerful enemies fall, Cao Yanbing became arrogant for a while. No matter how powerful the enemy is, he can still challenge again after failing. I am the son of destiny. However, this time I was wrong. Xia Xing is different from all the opponents he met before. All he needed was a look, and the 7 guardian spirits he was proud of instantly collapsed. Cao Yanbing trembled a little. Advertisement. He has always thought of himself as the protagonist, but he never expected to encounter bug-level characters. The gap between him and Xia Xing is like the sky and the earth. There is a huge gap that can never be bridged. Gudong. Cao Yanbing swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Now his heart is full of bitterness and loss, and a huge sense of gap is constantly intertwined in his body. There are people outside. Compared with Xia Xing, he is like a frog in a well, ignorant and arrogant, just for his own use. I even feel a little regretful about initiating this war on my own initiative. Snapped. At this moment, there was a sound of footsteps, and Cao Yanbing raised his head and looked forward. In the fog, a red-haired figure gradually emerged, followed by Stark and Thor. It was Red Hair who brought back the Marvel duo according to Xia Xing's order. I brought them here. The Red Hair came to Xia Xing and said respectfully. Xia Xing nodded lightly, and looked up at the duo. Do you know him? Xia Xing stretched out his hand to Cao Yanbing who had been restrained on the ground, and said calmly. Advertisement. The 2-star KS were a little puzzled at first, but when they saw Cao Yanbing's face clearly in the direction of Xia Xing's finger, their expressions suddenly changed slightly. A few seconds later, the faces of the 2 returned to normal, they glanced at each other, and shook their heads. I don't know each other. Is it? Xia Xing chuckled. Although the 2 denied it, Gong saw all the subtle facial expressions of the 2 just now. The moment Stark met Cao Yanbing's gaze, his pupils shrank instantly. Apart from shock, there was also a bit of fear. It was clearly a look of fear of things being revealed. Xia Xing already had a bottom line in his heart. Stark and some people in Marvel really colluded with the people in Junhun Street. At this point, Stark is still pretending to deny. Then just play along with him. Thinking of this, Xia Xing cleared his throat. Since I don't know each other, it's easy to handle. Now I have something for you. Xia Xing straightened his expression slightly. Go to the place where the people from Junhan Street are stationed and bring a message. Cao Yanbing was left here by me. If I want to save him, let their boss come to see him. Advertisement. Chapter 382 A Deterrent Eye. Advertisement. Stark and Thor were stunned for a long time, but just now they came back to their senses and nodded seriously. At this moment, the thoughts of the two are extremely chaotic. Originally, according to the agreement between Stark and Junhan Street, as long as Xia Xing can be held back and Cao Yanbing takes the opportunity to attack Whitebeard on the other side, there will be a great probability of victory. However, he never expected that he lost his wife and lost his army. Originally planned to hold Xia Xing's guardian spirit, but was easily killed. Xia Xing even seemed to have insight into their plan, like a god descending from the earth, supporting Whitebeard, and easily dealt with Cao Yanbing. The sneak attack plan not only failed completely, even Cao Yanbing became a prisoner. What to do next? Stark's brow furrowed into a knot. Stop. At this moment, Xia Xing's voice came from behind again, and the two of them rushed together, their hearts tightened. Could it be? Xia Xing found out about their collusion in Junhan Street. The two of them didn't dare to take a breath, as time seemed to freeze. After a while, Stark turned his head, tried his best to hide the panic on his face, and looked at Xia Xing. What else do you want? Advertisement. It's nothing. Xia Xing glanced at the two with a half smile. Be careful on the road. Then he turned around and walked towards the distance with Whitebeard and the others. Seeing Xia Xing's back gradually disappear, Stark and Thor sat down on the ground as if relieved from a heavy burden. The two gasped heavily as if they were relieved from a heavy burden, and at some point, cold sweat had penetrated their clothes. Fortunately, he didn't find out that we colluded with Soul Street. Thor let out a long sigh of relief, and said with a guilty conscience, while Stark's expression on the side was also dignified. Xia Xing stopped just now, and that cold gaze made the two of them fall into an ice cellar. What to do now? Thor wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at Stark. Otherwise, let's discuss it with Captain Marvel first. No. Stark shook his head solemnly. As far as I know, a large part of the Marvel team has followed Xia Xing. Indeed so. The astonishing strength that Xia Xing showed before convinced most of Wily's people, and they also gave up the idea of uniting with Junhan Street. However, the only ones who insisted on uniting to destroy Xia Xing were Stark, Captain Marvel and a small group of people. If we go back to Marvel to discuss the joint rebellion on Street of Souls, Spider-Man and the others will definitely regard us as enemies. Wouldn't it be that he revealed his identity as an inner ghost, and if Xia Xing knew, he would not be able to survive at all. Advertisement. Stark shook his head. Then what should we do? Thor, the god of thunder, couldn't help but worry when he heard this. There is only one step at a time. After a long silence, Stark sighed heavily. The only way is to follow Xia Xing's order and first tell everyone in Junhan Street the news of Cao Yanbing's arrest. It's time to think about countermeasures together. Stark spoke. Xia Xing asked the boss of the soul suppressing room to meet him. That means the final duel is about to take place. Saul was slightly taken aback. Shuda, can he really beat Xia Xing? Stark didn't answer, and seemed unsure of the question. By Nuo Zhao. If Shuda loses, the identity of our inner ghost will definitely be exposed. The lips are dead and the teeth are cold. No matter what, in this battle, we must do our best to help Junhan Street destroy Xia Xing. Stark gritted his teeth. Jarvis' new mech can be made in 2 days. Good. There was also a flash of determination in Soul's eyes. Okay, the original power of Thor's hammer, I desperately want it to be fully stimulated. Anyway, this battle, we must win. Advertisement. Chapter 383 The Final Battle. Advertisement. Boundless Sea. In the gray sky, 2 rays of light pierced the sky, pierced the clouds, and disappeared in an instant. It was Stark and Thor. After accepting Xia Xing's order, the two did not dare to neglect, and flew non-stop to the sphere of influence of Junhan Street. Jarvis, report the progress of the journey. In the huge red steel armor, Stark spoke. Drop. Collecting data to form a report. The target Soul Street is still 30 kilometers away from here. Jarvis replied mechanically. There are still 30 kilometers. Hearing 500 Jarvis's answer, Stark's eyes lit up slightly. It's finally here. The two spent 2 full days, and finally they were about to arrive at their destination. During the flight, the two also crossed Eni's lobby and many other islands, and were surprised to find that most of the territory originally controlled by Junhan Street was taken back by Xia Xing's marine. Advertisement. The Marines here at this time even have many acquaintances, such as Aokiji, because these admirals actually came to these islands in person, as important officials guarding one side. No need to guess, this must be Xia Xing's order ABCF. And these originally weak islands, after having the headquarter admiral and vice admiral sit in, their strength has been improved rapidly. The people in Junhan Street who originally wanted to take the opportunity to capture these islands did not expect Xia Xing's move at all, and suffered a lot, so they had to retreat to their original sphere of influence. It is worth mentioning that, after repelling the attacks of the people from Soul Suppressing Street, the Marines guarding the islands did not take advantage of the victory to pursue the attack, but stuck to the islands. As if waiting for something. In this way, the two sides actually confronted each other. It's kind of weird. Thor, who was constantly flying above, observed the Marines who were practicing on the many islands below, and couldn't help complaining. What the hell are they doing? Awaiting orders. Stark, who was constantly leaping while spraying nitrogen, answered. Order, could it be? Thor seemed to have thought of something, and became a little suspicious. That's right, Thor. Stark seemed to see through Thor's thoughts, and they were waiting for the attack order from Xia. Quote. Advertisement. If I'm not mistaken, by then, many islands centered on Eni's lobby will simultaneously launch an attack on the big island where town Seoul Street is located. And these vice admirals and admirals must also make a move. Then, it will be a decisive battle. Stark was a little uncertain. Today, many islands are distributed in a ring shape, forming a faint encirclement circle, which just happens to completely surround the big island where everyone in the soul-suppressing room is located. It is precisely because of this that Dao and everyone in Junhan Street have been completely surrounded. And Stark and Thor finally reacted at this moment. Why are there very few Marine admirals and vice admirals on the front battlefield? It turned out that Xia Xing had made a good layout early in the morning. Like these naval headquarters, was transferred to the most important place. It seems that war is inevitable, Stark said softly. After galloping for nearly a distance, the two stopped suddenly. Ahead, a huge glazed black glass cover descended from the sky, forming a semicircle and slowly covering the island. Arrive, Stark said softly. This is the island where everyone in Junhan Street is located, Junhan Island. Advertisement. Chapter 384 Soul-suppressing streets, now. Advertisement. Detected a wave quantum shield ahead. The steel armor Jarvis opened his mouth systematically, and the Stark duo couldn't help but stop and fell to the ground. Jarvis, use the PA system. Stark took off his mask as he spoke, and roared loudly. We're back. The sound wave quickly passed through the black protective cover and passed in. Not long after, the figure inside the protective cover flickered quickly and appeared in front of the two of them. It was Liu Yuchen and Sun Zontian from Junhan Street. The two were looking at the protective cover vigilantly, and several guardian spirits behind them slowly appeared, with a vigilant look on their faces. It's you. After a while, the two saw the figures of Stark and Thor clearly, their expressions moved, the guardian spirit behind them also disappeared, and they opened the protective cover with joy. The so-called protective cover is actually composed of a layer of enchantment. The outer layer of enchantment is composed of fierce spirits, and it can really play a significant role in defense for ordinary Marines. You are back. How is the task completed? Presumably Xia Xing's elite has already lost more than half of our strategy to divert the tiger away from the mountain. Liu Yuchen said with a smile on his face. As Whitebeard dead, Sun Zontian at the side couldn't help asking, by the way, why didn't Cao Yanbing come back with you? Hearing the continuous questioning of the two, Stark and Thor looked at each other with bitterness on their faces. Advertisement. Let's talk about it when we see the boss. Stark sighed. What, you're saying that Xia Xing fully understood our plan, and Cao Yanbing was also captured? In the center of Junhan Street, Wangpu Longdu in black was surrounded by the crowd, listening to Stark's report. His face was gloomy. Quote. The surrounding ominous spirits and various guardian spirits roared endlessly. That's right. Stark nodded his head heavily. Did Xia Xing use a sneak attack? Sun Zontian at the side pondered for a long time, and couldn't help asking. Cao Yanbing, as the protagonist of Junhan Street, possesses the heaven-defying abilities of the seven guardian spirits. How could it be taken down so easily? Sun Zontian still had some doubts. Sneak attack. Hearing the questions from Sun Zontian and everyone in Junhan Street, Xia Xing gave a wry smile and shook his head. There's no need for a sneak attack at all. After a face-to-face meeting, Cao Yanbing was instantly killed by Xia Xing. Second kill. Hearing this, the entire Junhan Street became extremely silent. Even the hovering ominous spirit fell silent for an instant. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. How can it be? With the ability of Cao Yanbing, not to mention Sun Zontian, even Wangfu Longdu, there is no way to defeat Cao Yanbing in a short time. And Xia Xing actually instantly killed. What kind of terrifying power is this? Does such a person really exist? After being silent for a long time, Liu Yuchen couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva, his voice trembling a little. Yes. Zero. Stark nodded, a look of undisguised disappointment flashing in his eyes. Originally, Stark's plan was that everyone in Marvel Universe united, even if they couldn't win Xia Xing, they could at least draw a tie. But now, more than half of Marvel has surrendered, only a few undercover agents are left. Everyone in Junhan Street seems to have been frightened by Xia Xing. It seems that in order to win this battle, the boss must be invited out. Just when Stark felt regretful, Wangfu Longdu suddenly said, if I remember correctly, boss's retreat should end today, right? As soon as the voice fell, there was a roaring sound from above, which made everyone look up in surprise. A huge dragon shadow roared and coiled on the protective cover, and the coercion exuded was horrifying. This is, boss. The boss is finally out. Advertisement. Chapter 385 You Trash. Advertisement. Roar. With a roar of dragon's breath. At this time, Wangfu Longdu's face changed directly, and his whole body was trembling a little. Not because of anything else, but mainly because Wangfu Longdu also saw a huge dragon head appearing in front of him. And this dragon head is his old god-tier dragon. Boss, you are finally out. Wangfu leader said tremblingly. And Cao Yanbing at the time of February 87 inches also looked at the giant dragon, even though he had seen it many times, he still couldn't help being angry. Shenlong's sense of oppression is too great, which is really too much for Cao Yanbing himself. But at this moment, only Shenlong made a voice slowly. During this period of retreat, what happened? Back to the boss, this Xia Xing is really amazing right now, and we have tried everything we can. But it can't be stopped. Wang Fu Longdu said. Advertisement. Yes, boss. Stark also followed suit. Now most of Marvel has surrendered to Xia Xing, and now only a few of my undercover agents are left. Before Cao Yanbing didn't give this real star a quick kill, now we can only wait for you to come out, the boss. Stark also said directly. Hearing Stark's words, Shenlong said, you bastards, you can't handle such a small matter all the time. I really should kill you all. As expected, the coercion of the dragon was not mentioned, and everyone present was shocked when he opened his mouth. After all, if the boss really said that he wanted to kill someone, then naturally there was no other way. So it is the same in some things. At this time, Shenlong looked at Stark and said, go, let your undercover tell Marvel's group of people who surrendered to Xia Xing that I came out. They should know what they did, Shenlong said. Stark naturally understood the meaning of the boss, mainly because if he didn't understand, there was nothing he could do. At this time, Stark also quickly contacted several undercover agents around Xia Xing. Advertisement. At the same time, on the other side, since Xia Xing killed Cao Yanbing in one move. It is to frighten the people on my side who are inconsistent, after all, there is no other way. The current problem is here. If there are any other problems, then naturally Xia Xing will solve these things himself. It's just that while Xia Xing was still dealing with other issues here, the news that the old god-tier dragon of Town Soul Street had left the customs also reached Xia Xing's ears. In fact, after Xia Xing knew about this, he immediately began to think about other plans. Although many people in Marvel surrendered to his side, Xia Xing knew in his heart that it was because these guys were all intimidated by him. For a while, I was just afraid of death, but now the Shenlong in Junhun Street has left the barrier. To be honest, Xia Xing knows very well that his own strength may not be able to defeat this Shenlong. So there are 4.3 times this thing is really difficult to handle. It's just that the current problem is here. Even if this is the case, Xia Xing must handle this matter well. If it can't be done well, then there will be a real big problem. And the news of soul-suppressing street project's exit naturally spread to the ears of all the characters in the Marvel world. Advertisement. Chapter 386. You have the ability to fight the boss. Advertisement. At this moment, Strange also happily said to Deadpool on the side. That's great, now that the boss is out, we just need to persevere. It's just that we can wait until the old Admiral Xia Xing is defeated, and then we can leave here and go back to Junhun Street to join the boss. Strange said. And Scarlet Witch is also very happy. It can be seen that everyone is also very happy for the boss's exit. After all, the group of people from the Marvel faction present were all because they couldn't beat Xia Xing, so one had no choice. Xia Xing could only surrender under such circumstances, but after all, everyone was not sincere. So now hearing the news that the boss is out of customs, the Marvel people present are all very happy. It can be said that they are all foolishness. And at this moment, Xia Xing also appeared in front of everyone. After everyone saw Xia Xing, Deadpool also said cheerfully, I said Xia Xing, you know that now our old god-tier dragon is out of customs. Advertisement. Aren't you good at fighting? Do you want to fight with our boss? And Strange also said to Xia Xing, actually, I don't think it's necessary, you also know that this matter is not that simple. Actually, I'm curious, if you really fight our boss, how badly will you lose? Seeing that the Marvel gang was also gloating here and mocking himself, Xia Xing didn't talk nonsense. Because for Xia Xing, his plan has to be done step by step, and now in Eni's lobby and other places, Aokiji, Akainu and others are waiting for orders. As long as I give an order, then this is the time for the decisive battle. Before the decisive battle, I don't need to waste time on such a little thing. Thinking of this, Xia Xing also said directly, don't worry, I know what you are thinking, so you don't have to worry, some things are here. Since I dare to bring my subordinates to fight against you, then naturally I won't worry or be afraid of your boss. Xia Xing said. Yo yo yo. Deadpool also said a little meanly, are you really not worried about this, or are you pretending to be calm? Advertisement. I am very clear about some things, if this is replaced by other things, then naturally there is nothing to say. Since this is the case, then there is no need to talk nonsense. This is the current matter. If it is really possible, then I hope you can fight our boss. But Xia Xing, I also know that you may not be hugely attracted by such strength, so forget it, I'm just talking casually. Faced with the ridicule from the Marvel gang, Xia Xing actually didn't care at all. Anyway, his plan was being implemented step by step now. Then all that's left is to leave it to time. Thinking of this, Xia Xing also returned to where he was. On the other side, Stark was also walking back and forth in the Street of Souls at this time, as if he was thinking about something. For Stark, the Shenlong's exit this time is also very important, mainly because it is the only chance to defeat Xia Xing. The strength of the others is too weak, even if Cao Yanbing and others try their best, they are not Xia Xing's opponent. Advertisement. Chapter 387. Find a way to lure Xia Xing into battle. Advertisement. Stark himself didn't expect that he would meet such a powerful opponent, so there was no way to let Stark come by himself. But there are many other things that cannot stand this matter. It's just that although Shenlong is out of the customs now, it may not be a simple matter for Shenlong to fight Xia Xing. So naturally in such a matter, Stark naturally wants to know what he has done. At this moment, Saul also came over directly. Seeing Stark like this, Saul also asked curiously, Stark, what's wrong with you? I see that you are preoccupied. Is there something urgent? Hearing Saul's words, Stark nodded and said, now that the dragon has come out, our strength has naturally been strengthened. If there are no accidents, then Xia Xing is definitely not Shenlong's opponent, but that's the problem. Advertisement. Xia Xing is invincible even if Shenlong doesn't attack. To defeat Xia Xing, we must rely on the hand of this Shenlong. But how can we make Xia Xing fight Shenlong? Stark also said directly. After hearing this, Saul said, now Xia Xing is on Soul Suppression Island, this is also an away game after all, if you want Xia Xing to make a move, then we have to go there in person. What do you mean? Stark was confused by Thor's words. At this time, Suo Rikai said, actually, this matter is not very difficult, since I want Xia Xing to fight Shenlong. Then we have to make good use of the terrain of Soul Suppression Island. Stark, you can make another shot to lure Xia Xing to chase after him. In this way, you can let Xia Xing chase all the way here. When Xia Xing appears, I don't believe that Shenlong will not make a move. Saul said directly. Hearing Saul's words, Stark nodded. You're right, since Xia Xing doesn't make a move, let's lure this guy to make a move. After finishing speaking, Stark also hurried to Saul to discuss the next action plan. After the discussion was over, Stark took Saul and the others secretly to Xia Xing's site on Soul Suppression Island. Advertisement. After all, it was Stark who wanted to lure Xia Xing to take action this time, so he had to do everything for his own benefit. Along the way, Stark led people directly to the place where Xia Xing was, and then Stark also shouted at Xia Xing's location, Xia Xing. If you have the ability, dare you come out and fight with me, now I am going to challenge you, do you think I will be afraid of you? Stark said. After Xia Xing heard Stark's words, he was a little puzzled, why this Stark was so strange. This time, he dared to provoke him, not because Xia Xing overestimated his strength, but because of the circumstances. This Stark Wei Wang Li's is definitely a bit too strange. But fortunately, the current issue is here, and Xia Xing knows it himself, if it is true what Stark said. Then Xia Xing also shot directly, and this Stark would have to die. After all, this Xia Xing still knew what level of combat power this Stark had. Thinking of this, Xia Xing also understood that Stark came to him suddenly, nothing more than wanting to let him make a move, and fight with the leader of Junhun Street, Shenlong. Advertisement. 388th chapter Reaping the Benefits of the Fisherman. Advertisement. These guys are so easy to reap the benefits of the fisherman. To be honest, Stark has a pretty good idea, but this matter is not such a simple matter. So soon Xia Xing also directly decided, since this has reached this point now, then for the next decisive battle. You can evacuate first. Thinking of this, Xia Xing also directly said to Stark, Stark, you don't need to be aggressive here, I will tell you clearly. I won't be fooled by you, but you don't need to say these things now, I'm planning to evacuate this soul-suppressing island. So play here slowly by yourself, Xia Xing said. When Stark heard Xia Xing's words, he was immediately confused by Xia Xing's words. 653 Why don't you play cards according to the routine? This is probably Stark's biggest thought about Xia Xing now. But Stark also knew that since he came, it was impossible for him to return empty-handed. At this time, Stark also said to Thor, go. Saul nodded, and was about to fight Xia Xing with a hammer in his hand. Advertisement. And Xia Xing glanced at Saul coldly, and Saul was immediately made to stand still by Xia Xing's cold eyes and never dared to move again. This guy is too powerful, with this look, I feel like I am dancing on the tip of a knife. At this time, Saul's heart was a little broken. In fact, Saul knew that he was not Xia Xing's opponent, but there was nothing he could do. In order to attract Xia Xing to make a move, so that the Shenlong can also make a move, so Saul discussed with Stark to make such a thing. But it is obvious that things are not so simple now, and now Saul is completely suppressed by Xia Xing's aura. I didn't dare to make a move at all. And Xia Xing looked at Saul coldly, do you think you still need to take action? Or do you think your hammer could really save your life? I don't believe it. Saul also looked at Xia Xing and said, I don't believe it's really impossible to attack you. Then you can try. Xia Xing is not worried about Saul's ally, mainly because Xia Xing has been waiting for this dragon to appear until now. If this dragon appeared, then Xia Xing would evacuate according to the original plan. Advertisement. It's not that Xia Xing is afraid of Shenlong, but that Xia Xing must use the terrain of Junhun Island to win this battle completely and completely. So until now, Xia Xing has not made a move. And Stark said, Xia Xing, if you have the ability to kill us all, otherwise, you don't want to leave today. Xia Xing smiled coldly, do you think I can't kill you? There was a roar, and then the figure of a huge dragon appeared in the sky. At this time, Stark also said excitedly, great, the boss has finally made a move, and we are also Chen Gong who implemented the plan. But Sali is not easy, because now Saul is under the pressure of Xia Xing. So even if Shenlong makes a move, Saul himself will not be easy. And after Xia Xing saw Shenlong finally appearing, he immediately gave Hongfa and the others an order, retreat. According to the original plan, don't panic, Xia Xing said. Hongfa and the others knew about the retreat plan a long time ago, and naturally everyone retreated in an orderly manner after receiving Xia Xing's order. Advertisement. Chapter 389 Retreat according to plan. Advertisement. And Xia Xing also directly ignored the situation of Stark and others, and retreated directly towards the originally planned retreat route. At this time, Shenlong also spit out a violent flame from his mouth, and this flame also represented the anger of Shenlong. After all, Xia Xing really didn't take himself seriously, and Shenlong himself still remembered what happened last time very clearly. At this time, Shenlong had also pinpointed Xia Xing's position, and immediately chased after him. A violent flame spurted out towards Xia Xing. At this time, Xia Xing also didn't pay attention, and was directly hit in the back by the dragon on the spot. Suddenly Xia Xing felt that he was staggering, and then spit out a mouthful of blood. Xia Xing was also a little surprised. Since this Shenlong retreated this time, his strength is much stronger than before when he came out. Although Xia Xing deliberately let Shenlong hit him, Xia Xing still underestimated the strength of this Shenlong. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, now that I have escaped according to the original plan, then there is no problem with the following things. At this time, Xia Xing was also directly following the original plan, and was heading towards the original escape location. Advertisement. Seeing this, Stark hurriedly said, "Boss, why don't we pursue now?" But Shenlong said, "I have already made a move, so I need to do the pursuit after I make a move." "Are you dead, Stark?" Shenlong also said angrily. Stark then hurriedly said, "Boss, I'm not, I'm just asking. If the boss gives the order, then I will definitely pursue it as soon as possible." And Shenlong is the guide. "Stark, you lead the fierce spirits to chase Xia Xing. Remember to kill Xia Xing. I don't want to see Xia Xing on this soul-suppressing island again. If I see Xia Xing again, it will definitely not be a good thing for me. So you can figure it out. If I still see this Xia Xing, then Stark should be the one who died." Shenlong gave the death order directly. At this time, Steka was also very desperate in his heart, which was simply the rhythm of stealing chickens and losing money. At first, Stark thought that Shenlong would make a move, so he could solve this matter directly. 0 for flowers. Advertisement. But what is the result now? The boss made a move, but the boss just shot Xia Xing and seriously injured him, so he didn't care about it anymore, and now he had to bring the fierce spirit to chase him. What level of strength is this fierce spirit, and what level is Xia Xing's strength? Needless to say. It goes without saying, so naturally the former Stark himself was very desperate. But there is no way, whether it is desperate or not, this is the case now in this matter. If you don't pursue it now, then it is really unreasonable, so the most important issue right now is here. This is the case in itself, and Stark can only swallow it if he has any problems. "Saul, let's go," Stark also said to Saul. Saul naturally understood Stark's meaning. There was no other way. If he didn't pursue him, he would die waiting for others now. This is no joke. Thinking of this, Saul also nodded. After all, some things are just like this. Advertisement. Chapter 390 Chase, Never Let Go. Advertisement. On this side, Stark is already chasing down with a fierce spirit. On the other side, at this time, Xia Xing was following the originally planned retreat route, and retreated along the way. However, Xia Xing was also a little speechless. He didn't expect the sudden increase in the strength of the dragon, so he was careless looking for him, and was caught off guard by the dragon. Although there is no big problem in general now, but I have to say that Xia Xing was put on by Shenlong in terms of April 20th. At this moment, Xia Xing was still running away, but he also saw Stark and others chasing after him. At this time, Xia Xing said, "I never thought that you guys would dare to chase after him. I really don't want my life." Xia Xing retreated all the way, being careful of the pursuit of Stark and others. After Stark, Saul and others saw Xia Xing. It was Stark who ordered the evil spirits to attack Xia Xing quickly. Xia Xing couldn't be allowed to run away. Advertisement. As soon as Stark's order came out, many ominous spirits rushed up in a swarm. Xia Xingjian didn't feel flustered when he saw this situation. It was normal after all. Apart from other things, at least even if Xia Xing is injured now, these fierce spirits are definitely not his opponents. And most importantly, Xia Xing himself put all these things in his retreat plan as part of it. At this time, Xia Xing also shot directly, and the fierce spirit who was in the lead was instantly killed by Xia Xing. Then, the other fierce spirits were also instantly killed by Xia Xing. Seeing this situation, Xia Xingjian also sneered and said, "Does Stark still want to trouble me with your level? Don't you think it's a little funny? My strength is comparable to yours," Xia Xing said. After all, Stark still had scruples about Xia Xing, so even if Xia Xing was injured, he still didn't dare to pursue him desperately. And at this moment, Xia Xing also took advantage of Stark's hesitation, and then shifted and retreated from the other side. It can be said that Stark himself was a little flustered. After all, he was ordered to pursue Xia Xing, and he couldn't let him run away. Advertisement. But I have to say that Stark himself is not very familiar with the terrain on Soul Town Island. It seems that Xia Xing is very familiar with it. And Xia Xing really took advantage of his familiarity with the topographic map of Junhan Island, so he directly retreated towards the other side for 0. At this time, Xia Xing was also retreating while fighting with the ominous spirit that Stark photographed. In short, Xia Xing didn't love to fight, but he definitely wanted to make a move. After all, you can tell if you think about it. Now Xia Xing himself understood this truth. If he could really get this matter right, then naturally he would have nothing to say. At this time, Xia Xing also saw a valley in front of him, which was set by Xia Xing before. In this valley, there are some attack mechanisms prepared by Xia Xing himself in advance. This is for Xia Xing to prevent the enemy from chasing him when he retreats. Then at that time, I can directly use this mechanism to kill all the enemies chasing me at 2.6 in this valley. This is also thanks to the fact that the terrain of Junhan Island is large enough, and it is also beneficial enough for Xia Xing, so there is a retreat plan this time. Otherwise, for Xia Xing, if he really wants to fight to the death on Junhan Island now, with Marvel, Shenlong, and people from Junhan Island. To be honest, Xia Xing himself was not absolutely sure that he would win. Advertisement. Chapter 391. This is a good opportunity. Advertisement. Boss. At this time, Cao Yanbing also said to Shenlong, why didn't you kill Xia Xing directly? It was the best opportunity just now. Obviously, Cao Yanbing himself didn't understand such things very well. After all, this matter just now can be said to be an excellent opportunity. If this matter can be resolved, then naturally it is the best thing, but the problem now is here. Cao Yanbing also couldn't understand one thing, that is why his boss didn't kill Xia Xing to 01, but let Xia Xing retreat. At this time, the huge figure hovering in the sky also said directly, I can't do anything about this, do you think I don't want to? Boss, calm down, Cao Yanbing didn't mean that. Cao Yanbing also said hastily. Of course I know you don't mean something else. If you mean something else, do you think you can live? I have no choice. There are only so many things I can do now. After what happened last time, I haven't recovered my strength and other things, and I have nothing to do, if I can solve this matter. Advertisement. Then do you think I won't want to make a move? My problem now is that I haven't been able to get these things done yet. But it's true now. After I settle this matter, the rest will naturally be fine. Shenlong said. After hearing what his boss said, Cao Yanbing didn't say anything more at this time. After all, it's true that his boss hasn't recovered the strength he should have. It's just that now Xia Xing has made it clear that he has more means and more countermeasures, if this is not the case. Xia Xing himself would not act recklessly like this, after all, he should know when he thinks about it, and Zhen Xing himself knows that there are some things he can't help himself. At this time, Shenlong said to Cao Yanbing, this time, I also hope to show some things, mainly to see your strength. To be honest, I really have no hope for your strength now, especially you Cao Yanbing. After Cao Yanbing heard Shenlong calling his name, his heart flickered. After all, it was impossible for Shenlong not to know that he was instantly killed by Xia Xing with one move. Advertisement. Now that you know, then there is definitely nothing you can do about it. Since you want to play like this, then there is nothing to say. At this time, Cao Yanbing hurriedly said, Boss, this Xia Xing is indeed formidable, I am really no match. Forget it, Ben Long is not necessarily Xia Xing's opponent, I don't mean to blame you, but you still have to find a way to improve your own 350 strength. After finishing speaking, Shenlong stopped talking about these things, but hovered in the sky, wondering if he was thinking about some plan. And Cao Yanbing finally felt relieved. But at this time on the other side, Xia Xing was already fighting Stark again. Originally, Xia Xing also retreated while fighting along the way, it's not that Xia Xing is not Stark's opponent, but Xia Xing also doesn't want to give up other things. So this is retreating while fighting. Generally, for smart people, seeing such a situation, they all know that this is Xia Xing's conspiracy. Advertisement. Chapter 392 Pursuit, continue to pursue. Advertisement. Then it is certain that after a certain level of pursuit, the pursuit will be given up directly, but the current problem is here. There is no way to do this matter itself, if it can be done now, then naturally it is the best thing. What is the most important thing now? The main problem is here, there is really no way around this thing. It's just that Stark was also chasing Xia Xing, so he was a little furious, so he didn't care about anything, and just chased Xia Xing directly. And Xia Xing finally managed to get Stark into the set. After successfully killing several evil spirits, Xia Xing was already facing Stark alone at this time. Looking at Stark in front of him, Zhen Xing also said directly, didn't you think about Stark that I lured you here on purpose? Stark was originally planning to fight Xia Xing, but after hearing Xia Xing's words, Stark was taken aback for a moment, and then looked around. There were not a few fierce spirits left around him, and now Stark's heart became tense all at once. Advertisement. It turns out that I was also fooled by Xia Xing accidentally, so how do you play around with this matter? At this time, Stark also knew that he was fooled, but there was no way, even if he knew that he was fooled, he still had to solve this matter. After all, if you think about it, you should know, even if you have been fooled for so long, what can you do? Could it be that you have been fooled, and you don't want to escape, don't you? At this time, Stark could only bite the bullet and said, Xia Xing, don't think that you can really turn things around by just saying a few words. I won't say much about other things. Since this is the case, then this matter itself can only be done in this way. If it is not done in this way, then it will definitely not work. Anyway, there is nothing to do about other things. If this can be done, then naturally there will be no problem. Anyway, your luck is bad today, the boss said, you must die. Stark said. And Xia Xing laughed. I said Stark, you are very confident, if this is the case, then you should talk about it. Advertisement. When will you beat me? Since you want to do this, then naturally there is nothing to say. In short, this is the current matter. If you really want to get this matter out, then naturally you have nothing to say, but the current problem is here. Backquote. Do you really have any other way, or can you kill me? If not, then the best way is to figure out these things yourself. Xia said the star. Stark at this time also knew that if he didn't defeat Xia Xing, then only he would die. And as a Marvel character, I am also Iron Man. Liao knows this equipment is not vegetarian, right? Although Stark also knew that he seemed to be talking about equipment to Xia Xing, which might make people laugh, but now Stark has nothing to do. After all, thinking about this matter should make it clear that some things can only be done in this way. At this moment, I saw a huge jet of nitrogen gas directly behind Stark, and then Stark rushed towards Xia Xing directly and quickly. Advertisement. Chapter 393. Your ability is not my match. Advertisement. The right hand also shot out a red ultraviolet laser, trying to use the high temperature to cut Xia Xing off. And Xia Xing laughed. It's not what I said, Stark. With your three-legged cat ability, are you sure you are really my opponent? As soon as Xia Xing finished speaking, Xia Xing flashed and disappeared in front of Stark, but Stark still didn't have time to see Xia Xing's figure. Immediately, I felt that something kicked me directly in my back, and then I saw Stark and flew out directly. Soon Xia Xing laughed. I said, Stark, even if you put on your mech, it's useless to me. However, one thing I admire about you is that you can always provide me with so many sources of happiness, which I did not expect. At this time, Stark said angrily, Xia Xing, do you think this is the end? Now is the beginning of the good show. After Stark finished speaking, he flew up immediately, and then kicked Xia Xing fiercely. Stark's mecha was also a high-tech product after all. Advertisement. In Marvel, it is also a sharp weapon that specializes in defeating bad guys and alien titans, but after all, there is no way to deal with this matter ABFB. Now the biggest situation is here, this matter itself must be done, and the most important thing is here. Although Stark's equipment is very strong and his strength is not bad, it's just that Stark is facing a guy like Xia Xing in front of him. This is the real unsolvable existence. At this time, Xia Xing also smiled and said, it's just you. In the next second, Xia Xing also stretched out his right hand, grabbed the foot that Stark had kicked over, and then said coldly, that's right, if that's the case. Then naturally there is nothing to say. Now I know that you are a bit good, but fortunately, many things are here. Stark, I didn't intend to kill you. After all, killing you is not of much value, and the people in Marvel are nothing more than Shenlong's dogs. Advertisement. If you are willing to bring your people to me, I can actually forget all these things. But I really didn't expect that you are still so obsessed, this is what makes me very disappointed. But since you are all like this, then I won't say anything more to you. Today I will send you to see your god first. As for the others, I will come one by one. Xia Xing said. As soon as Xia Xing's words fell, Stark felt as if his body had lost its center of gravity, and was immediately thrown away by Xia Xing on the spot. This time Stark himself also hit the ground hard, and then Xia Xing frantically beat Stark everywhere like a green titan. At this time, Xia Xing directly put other things aside, and then directly made a move. He couldn't get out of such a thing. Soon Xia Xing beat Stark crazily, and Stark was also beaten by Xia Xing so quickly that he lost consciousness directly. And at this moment, I saw that one of the ominous spirits also saw Stark, and it might really be dying, and this was after he hurriedly shot. Advertisement. Chapter 394. Stark escapes. Advertisement. When Xia Xing was not paying attention, he directly attacked Xia Xing's back, and Xia Xing came after seeing the fierce spirit's sudden attack. This is to quickly let go of Stark, and then fight the ominous spirit. Originally, this ominous spirit was not Xia Xing's opponent, but this ominous spirit suddenly made a move, and Xia Xing also focused on Stark. As a result, Xia Xing didn't have the extra energy to pay attention to other things, but fortunately, Xia Xing's strength was still strong after all, that's why he wasn't wiped out by this evil spirit. At this time, Xia Xing also directly punched the fierce spirit with a backhand. The ominous spirit was sent flying on the spot, and Xia Xing also continued to rush forward, and disappeared in front of the remaining fierce spirits. These ominous spirits didn't expect that Xia Xing would disappear in front of them, thinking that this guy had done something. But at this moment, Xia Xing appeared behind everyone again at some unknown time. Advertisement. These ominous spirits were also caught off guard, and Xia Xing whipped them all, sending them all flying out on the spot. Xia Xing's strength surpassed these guys by far, so naturally the outcome of this battle was already decided from the very beginning. At this time, Xia Xing also put other things aside, and directly shot these fierce spirits crazily. At this time, Stark is gradually waking up from his confused consciousness, and Stark who is waking up is very clear about his current situation. The mecha on my body has been damaged in many places, and my body has also been seriously injured, if I don't start the escape procedure now. Then I must die here too. After thinking about it, Stark also decided to start the escape procedure. Because there is absolutely no way for these ominous spirits who followed him to survive. If this is the case, then naturally there is nothing to say. At this time, Stark was also directly in such a situation, and he shot directly, after pressing the button of his last emergency escape. It is to use the last 20% of the energy in my home to launch myself in the direction of the dragon. Advertisement. Seeing Stark fleeing the scene suddenly and retreating at supersonic speed, Xia Xing felt powerless even if he wanted to chase him. 0. Ask for flowers. And Xia Xing's main purpose is not really to kill Stark, it's best if it can kill Stark, but if it can't be killed. Then the most important thing for me is here, and that is to find a way to eliminate as many evil spirits as possible, which is the best. 0. But now is not the time to think about these things. Since Stark has escaped now, He just needs to deal with these things as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Xia Xing also swept away again, directly killing the ominous spirit blocking his way in front of him on the spot. After all these evil spirits were wiped out, Zhang Xing at this time retreated towards his established route. At this time, Stark had already regretted the location of the Shenlong in Junhun Street. When he saw the Shenlong, Stark's full body armor was already damaged. After Shenlong saw Stark like this, he also knew in his heart that Stark must have failed in the process of chasing Xia Xing, otherwise it would not be like this. Advertisement.